Hey, Spencer, how's it going?
Good, good. Oh, listen, I can't apologize enough for the mix-up. It's all kind of my
Not at
fault.
all. Listen, hey, Newfoundland is, I don't know if you've ever heard of it before, but small place. We have our own time zone. We're
I
very,
that's yeah, I saw that. I can't believe 2.5 hours behind the UK.
yeah, it's this little half hour thing. And it's a very small place, but it punches above its weight culturally. It has a lot of weird idiosyncrasies, and that's one of them.
Okay.
Yeah, so how's everything going in London?
Yeah, no, everything's perfect. Thank you very much. I was
Great.
it's interesting because with this podcast, I try and do it in my own time when I can. So when I am doing it, I try and get as many guests as possible. And I had a guest that was meant to be on last week, and for whatever reason, he couldn't make it. So he rescheduled for today, and it was just a bit of a. I've been incredibly busy. It was just a bit of a shit show on my part.
No
So
worries. And listen, if you need to push this and do it another time,
no,
that's
no,
no
no, no,
problem
not
too.
in the slightest. No, 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 no.
Okay, great.
What we have more than enough time. So it's not a. We have all the time in the world, so it's no problem. I just don't want to mess you around either. So that's all.
No, not at all. Delighted to do it. Like I say, I watched the podcast and came across it and love it. It's great.
Yeah, no, thank you. Look, I've been reading up about you a little bit, and I was obviously you put me in contact with Malcolm, which I really really appreciate, and we were talking about you as well. And I got to ask you, you've got a TV show on Netflix called Son of a Critch. How is it watching I guess your childhood on screen? Did you ever think that would happen?
No. So I'm from this small place, Newfoundland. It's a big island, Newfoundland and Labrador,
Yeah,
on the east coast of North America, a rock in the middle of the ocean.
yeah.
Growing up, I mean, we were pretty isolated, and the idea of like being on TV was just it's just a dream. You wouldn't even dream it.
Yeah, yeah.
And there were some local comedians who had a local TV show that was huge influence on me. It was sketch comedy mixed with music, and they had done it. And then being able to see them when I was when I was about 5 years old, 6 years old, this show was on TV, and it was local comedy, sketch comedy, bit of music, a little bit of music hall influence, very Irishy, Englishy, lots of
Okay.
sketch, lots of characters,
Yeah.
and very local though. We have an accent in Newfoundland. And it's sort of like, what are you at? How's she going by today? To my son, don't come where I'm to till he comes where I'm at. Like you wouldn't understand it. It's a little like a Cockney kind of,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
our accent was on TV. So I'd turn the dial and I'd see these American shows.
Yeah.
And then boom, for half an hour, there's people who sounded like me doing jokes about nuns because there was a lot of Catholic school and stuff. And I was like, oh wow, you can do it. They did it. So they kind of cut the path through the woods. They landed on the moon. But I
Okay.
never thought in this little room in my little house, I never thought I'd ever be able to do it, let alone have a TV show that's broadcast in many other countries
Yeah.
based on my life. It was insane.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And you're several seasons in now as well.
Season 5 now. Yeah.
That's incredible. That's so cool. And speaking about sketch comedy shows, did you ever get Benny Hill over there?
But yeah, Benny Hill. We got a lot of Canada's interesting in that to be a funny person, comedian, to be satirical, you kind of had to be on the outside looking in. And then we live next to America, which is like a mouse sleeping next to an elephant, right?
Yeah.
And all of their stuff comes over the border, all their TV and their culture. But we were kind of raised on a lot of more English stuff, Python and Benny Hill and all that stuff because we're part of the Commonwealth.
Yeah.
So we're always outside kind of looking over the fence at the States going, do you see what they're doing down there?
Yeah,
Look
yes,
at
yeah.
that guns. This is crazy. So we got a lot of Canadians do very well comedically in the States because it's a step removed, so you can comment on it. Your grandfather always the idea that a lot of comedians talk about kicking up, which comes from the tramp kicking the policeman in the bum.
Yeah.
But if the bum kicks the tramp in the bum, not funny. It's kicking down, but you kick up.
Oh, I see
So
what
we
you
as
mean.
Canadians, we're just meant to do that, I guess.
Yeah,
We're kind of in the middle. We've got these two parents, the UK and America.
Yeah, yeah, interesting. I never thought about it like that. That's very true because it's always about the underdog. With my grandfather, right? It's always about the underdog getting what he wants. It's true. It's never.
Yeah, you have two characters. You have the tramp and the cop, and all that happens is one kicks one. it's just the movement. The only thing that changes, but the cop kicking him, not funny.
Yeah.
Him kicking a cop, everybody wants to be able to do that. You're fighting for the underdog.
Yeah. That's so true. That's very cool. And so, how much do you know about my grandfather?
A great deal. So when I was a kid, before the internet, before anything really, you're talking like the late 70s, early 80s. There used to be a thing. The local university had a catalog of films and stuff, and they had a channel 13, and it was like university television, just local, and the most incredibly boring stuff you would ever see. But in there were certain Chaplin films, and there's nowhere else for me to see them at that age. And so there was a couple listed. One was The Kid.
Okay.
And I would call in and pretend I was a university student or something, like, hello, yes, I'm interested in item number 754, The Kid by Chaplin. And you'd wait, and then a week might go by, but eventually it would come on, and you'd watch it, eyes to the screen. And then I was always fascinated by Chaplin. I read my autobiography when I was in the 6th grade, I think.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And that's a tough book then, because he wrote in a very, almost professorial way at times, like it's not what you would expect,
Yeah.
And that's why I love too. Like I love a lot of the talkies, because it's an interesting. I like when the tramp spoke. I find it's not what you would have expected him to say, and I love that about him.
Yeah.
But so I was fascinated by that. I was especially fascinated by his early years, growing up in Lambeth and all that stuff, and the relationship with his parents. And then I couldn't get so I would get books and I'd read about these films. And then finally, you'd catch them here and there, but I finally, a really cool VHS came, early 90s, a very cool place called Video Inc. came.
Yeah.
And they had some Chaplin films there. And so I'd be able to get like Limelight, which I love.
Yeah.
And the short. And so I read about these things in books, kind of pictured them long before I got to see them. Now you can see anything, anytime. But I like that, because being a fan of something, you used to have to hunt for it, understand it, devour it more. Like now everything is there, but it's like, okay, I can get my hands on one. What's this? Where was this in the line of things? And having read the whole life story, so I kind of, I love the art, but I was always fascinated by the man as well.
Yeah. I've said this in the past, but when I was growing up, so I grew up in the house that my grandfather moved to when he ended up in Switzerland, and we had at the time when I was a kid, it was VHS tapes, and we had all of them, and our parents would tell all the kids, all their own kids, so my siblings and I, say, "Hey, see the kid on that cover? That's actually you. You're in the film." So at some stages of our lives, we all believed that we were the kid in the kid, Jackie Coogan.
Well, that's beautiful.
Which is
that
really
moment, I think in our show, the Son of a Critch TV show, there's a lot of heart and a lot of like sweet sadness, and try not to be overly sentimental, but have a lot of heart. So a lot of people say they'll cry during an episode, especially at the end of the episode, even though it's a comedy. And, I think a lot of that is from loving what he did and seeing that you can have both, right? If you earn the beauty, you can have these truly, there's a lot of our show where there's no laugh, but people are into it because they care about the characters, and it's genuinely try to be moving, and so much of that is dreamy. I wrote a part for, I guess, your Aunt Geraldine.
Yes.
For Malcolm. There was an episode that dealt with dementia, and there was someone that she used to date, and we sent it to her, and she was going to do it, and then she was either moving or sick, and the last minute she had to cancel. So that was like a real dream, like it almost happened, and there's like COVID-y stuff started happening, and didn't want to travel during that. So we're that close. But a big admirer, and so everything was colored. Everything I've ever done in my life is colored by being a Chaplin fan.
I was going to say that it's kind of interesting, because my grandfather, a lot of his films, especially a film like The Kid, is very much based on his childhood, I think, and his take on his childhood.
And I was fascinated. I've been to Lambeth. I've been to the house where, I've made a trip. My poor wife, we went to London, and we're doing all this stuff, and I'm like, Actually, there's a beautiful bridge you can go over. Let's go over here. And she's hopped the cab. Where are we doing a Chaplin thing? I'm like, okay, there's a pub where he last saw his father.
Yes, it's
And
right on the corner.
so I got to go there, and I got to go to the house that he stayed in for a couple of days with his father after his mom went to the hospital. And I stood there for a long time. And the other thing too about being from a small place where all of this seems so out of reach and out of time and a different thing, to stand there and look up at the window where he and Sydney and your great grandmother had to endure that level of poverty that doesn't really exist anymore.
Yeah.
And that you could dream your way out of it in a way, by never giving up on those dreams. It was really moving to me to stand there and go, okay, so it's real. And, and to walk along, there are different places he had stayed. There's like a spot where he last saw Hetty Kelly, which was this girl he was fascinated, and she was getting on a bus, and I wanted to go there because I also, one of the great romantic sadnesses in the history of Earth, I think, is that he had loved this, had such strong feelings for this young lady. He's this broke actor. He can't win her hand.
Mm-hmm.
He goes off. He becomes the most famous man who ever lived. On his way back, he learned she had died.
Yeah.
And I just thought that was, and it's such a sadly beautiful look at how your money can't give it to you, fame can't give it to you. And you might chase out the rest of your life. So I like a really obscure, like some of the, there are Chaplin fans, but I'm like a deep dive, obscure guy, like going to these places and stuff. But I think that's where it's all formed, right? Like seeing where somebody grew up, that's so much of their life is formed there. So much of their art is formed there.
Yeah. And it wasn't until I started this podcast that I really started to truly, truly appreciate him. I've got to say, it's sort of, it's strange, and it might sound strange. When I was, when I was growing up, I was just born into the family. There's nothing I can do about it, And of course I knew who he was, and I knew his films and all that kind of stuff. I'm a musician by trade. That's what I do. I've been playing music most of my life. And during COVID, everything stopped, as for everywhere. For 2 years, I had no shows or anything. So I thought, I'm just going to reach out and see, if there are people that still even admire him. I don't know. Who knows? And as I started speaking to people and I started doing more research, I really, really appreciate, and I really begin to understand why he was so famous, and where I think where his passion came from, his motivation. It all comes from this childhood in London, but also how much of it was down to luck, do you think?
I always say, like, I have this, there's people sometimes will ask me for advice, young people getting in the business. And I say, if there's anything else you can do it. Because, and I don't mean like if there's anything else you might be happy doing, do that. Because if you have a net, you will fall into the net. And I have been very broke, and I kept going, and I didn't get the other job, and I kept waiting, and eventually I got a break. And you get a break, but you had to be ready when the break comes, right? It's not all luck. It's you get a lucky chance, but then it's up to you if you can do it. But I think being broken, or not being able to get gigs or what have you, it all builds something in you and a character. And if you can stay through it, then if you had to be happy doing it, if you're going to be poor or if you're going to be rich. Mm-hmm. And I don't think your grandfather got into it to become rich. I mean, he wanted to get up out of what he was. Yeah. But this was who he was. It was in his bones. It's a showbiz family. You're doing it in a different way. It's still it's in your blood. That's who you are. Your father was involved in music. So it's like sometimes it's just there, and it's legacy, and it's all these things. But if you can do something else, do it. And you'll be happy. If you can do that on the weekends, fill your boots, you're going to be happy. But if you can't, now you got something.
Yeah.
If it's the only thing you can do is you have to do this, that's it. And I think with your grandfather, he and Sydney, I love that the two of them together as brothers, they never let go, right?
No, never.
And then and that's beautiful. And that's that family bonding. Because once you've been through that, the kind of poverty they were through, that doesn't leave you, right? And I think he was when I look at him, what I think is fascinating is he was always going, always on the next thing, always had to keep going. He was worried about the studio and the prices and all that stuff. But with that level of poverty, I think it's always right behind you, even though it's not going to go away. Your riches. I think the fear of it, having been that hungry, having been that poor, the fear of that coming back. And there's a story about your great grandmother in that she would sometimes crush up the food and put it in her, and he gave her the world. And she was like, yeah, it can go away, and it can. And my father, the same way. He grew up in Newfoundland. It was a very poor place at the time. His father died when he was 5. And he was a fisherman, his father. The family had no money. The Depression came in, no money. And I remember talking to Dad about things as a kid, going, oh, the Depression, I guess that will never happen again. He goes, it will. It'll come back. Like that level of it can come back. And the look in his eyes, I remember thinking, like, this is a guy who has seen stuff. And I remember he told me one story. I said, well, how bad was it? He said, I remember one time your grandmother, his mother, was in service scrubbing floors for rich people. Like, that's a little bit of money they could get. And so she'd be all day scrubbing floors, and he would, after school, run around up and down Water Street, our main street, and beg for, like, one of the, like in The Kid, like just looking for any kind of hobble.
Yeah, of course.
And he got a little bit of money, and then he heard from someone there was a guy selling meat by the train station. And I was like, what? And so he ran up to this guy. He gave him his money, and this guy cut him off a slab of meat and gave it to him. And he brought it up to his mother, and it was real meat. And she was like, oh my God, I can't believe it. And I said, that was a weird story. I said, well, what kind of meat was it? And he said, back then, you didn't ask. And I thought, that's poverty, right? And that level of poverty isn't really around anymore.
No.
And another step removed from that is your grandfather's level. But the ghost of that, I think, stays with you. And you see it in the art. Like a lot of the rooms, like in the Kid or whatever, he keeps going back and kind of rebuilding that room. From Lambeth, from that street. They're all, if you look at that room and the way that house is laid out.
Oh, yeah, completely.
It's there. So it's like a traumatic thing. It's like today, a scientist would say, you're reliving this moment of trauma and you're trying to make it a little bit nicer. Give it a happy ending. Give it some hope.
Yeah, it's so true. That's so true. And there's a part in my grandfather's book as well where he talks about obviously his mother. So my great grandmother goes into
The
Workhouse. Workhouse. The Workhouse now is a cinema museum. The building's still there. I don't know if you've been.
I was there. It was closed when I got there. I couldn't go in, but I went there to that and saw that. Blew my mind.
Yeah, but there's also an infirmary that she was sent to as well. And that building is still up as well. And I think now it's a rehab or something, but it's very much of all the buildings of his childhood are still around, which I'm so lucky to have that, you know.
I couldn't believe it. And there's even a place, he had an uncle, I believe, who had a pub in that area.
Yeah.
And there's like a coal chute kind of thing, a metal door.
Yeah, exactly.
And he would like dance on that, and that's the metal door is still there.
Yeah, it's so cool.
And there's a pub where he saw his father for the last time.
Yeah.
And they have Charlie's Corner. And I thought that was a beautiful, but there's so many, the fact that this stuff remains blew my mind. I have always wanted to go, and myself and my wife, we always talk about, maybe this year I'll finally do it, get to Switzerland, because I've always wanted to see the house. I always wanted to visit the gravesite and pay my respects. But I couldn't believe those things are still there.
Yeah.
And there's film of him, you must have seen this, the footage of him when he goes back to England as an older man, I believe. And he goes to these spots.
Yeah.
But that's how, like, he was, his memory of all of them is there. These are all these things that, he never lost that. And that's why he never lost being funny. And that's why he never lost being hard. He never, ever settled into being this multi-millionaire, most famous guy on earth. There was always a bit of him. And a lot of people who come from bad childhoods, they always have imposter syndrome. And I kind of feel like he had that because he would always be reaching out, very self-educated. He spoke in a kind of a little bit of a hoity-toity kind of way. He kind of changed his accent a bit, Yeah, and
that's so true.
And he would speak to all these intellectuals, and I thought that was fascinating, in that he became very self-educated, but inside the truly funny stuff, that's where the pain is. And a lot of comedy is tragedy plus time, looking back at something. And I thought that was beautiful.
Yeah. Well, look, if you ever do come to Switzerland, and I'll get my dad, I'm sure my dad will give you a tour. So
I would love that. That'd be the honor of my life.
If I'm around, I'll be there as well. But he gives a lot of tours of the museum and stuff. So if I ask him, I'd like to. Well, I know he will, but I don't want to.
You know what? There's a small. I will take you up on that, Spencer.
Yeah.
There's two small Chaplin connections to this place.
Okay.
There was a guy from St. John's, Newfoundland, where I am right now, middle of nowhere, became an assistant to your grandfather and a joke writer for him.
Oh,
And
how
his name
cool.
was Vincent P. Bryan. And
Okay.
it's very obscure. You'd never have heard of him,
Right.
but he was very close to him, and he developed a heroin addiction in L.A. And he wrote on the rink. You know, the when he's
Yeah.
roller skating,
Yeah, of course.
he has a couple of, they call it scenario writing, like coming up with an idea for a gag, and a bunch of those early shorts. And he wrote for him, which I didn't realize until I burning through all this Chaplin stuff. And then I'm like, who's this guy? It says he was born in St. John's, Newfoundland. So that's a real
Very
kind of
cool.
interesting. But I could see why, because this place is very English. It's all like from the Dartmouth area,
Yeah.
settled by the fishery and stuff.
hmm
So a lot of those comedic chops and style would have transferred.
That is very interesting. My
Yeah.
my grandfather as well was very, very well traveled. So I don't know. Do you know if he would have definitely been to Canada at some point, but I don't know about Newfoundland.
He played, no, I've been on a stage. There's a theater in Winnipeg where he performed, which I've done
There is.
stand up on. Yeah. And I was just like, I'm like, Winnipeg? I'm like, is it and it was, and I was like, I'm going. And I just to stand on a stage where he stood blew my mind, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, so I found a lot of inspiration in the work, but I think I found more inspiration in the life story, which I find
hmm
unparalleled. Like nobody has had to live that life. And I think your grandmother, Una, gave him finally, he seemed to stop chasing, you
Yeah.
know?
Oh, completely.
And she calmed whatever that pain was.
Oh,
And I thought
100%.
that was beautiful.
100%. You know, my dad always credits my grandmother for like a lot of the stuff, especially in my grandfather's later life. And apparently, he just couldn't be without her at any moment, and he would ask her opinion on absolutely everything, which is kind of funny because you hear stories of him knowing exactly what he wants normally.
Well, and that's like, I think he wanted it because like it has to be this way, because it has to be successful, because something bad can happen if it's
Yeah.
not. But with her, it's like, well, what do you think? So like that ghost, he kind of exorcised that ghost of that past
Yeah, yeah,
for him,
yeah,
which is who gets that in life, So it took him a while to get there. It's a long life.
yeah. A lot of controversy along the way, I guess, but
My God, yeah. But I mean, who you can't live a life that. I mean, there's like, what was fascinating about him was there's even like everyone, because there was no language, because
Yeah.
it was silent, the early stuff, it crossed borders, right? So a guy in Moscow would be as much a Charlie Chaplin fan as a guy in New York.
Yeah.
As sometimes there'd be like uh, indigenous people in forests or jungles who the only film they've ever seen is somebody comes in and shows them a Charlie Chaplin thing, and they'll still laugh, right?
Yeah.
Because there are some truths, but it had to be the most famous person who ever lived. And to have this beautiful family is a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
I have a question for you,
Okay.
if you don't mind.
Yeah, of course.
I love your music. I've seen,
Thank
things
you.
online. Is there, if you were a comedian or something, it would be endless, but are you able to get out from, it seems to me that the Chaplin name hasn't been hanging over you in the same way. You seem to have made your own path, which is
Yeah.
very difficult to do.
Yeah, I think it is interesting because one, look, I'm born into whatever I'm born into. I'm very blessed, and I appreciate it now
Yeah,
that I'm a bit
but it can
older.
be, that side could be a bit of a curse. Yeah, if as a
Yeah,
performer.
I think because I went down the music route rather than the acting route or the comedy route, maybe that changed things for me, that I maybe felt less pressured, I guess.
Yeah, that's great.
And the one thing I can tell you for sure is that over the years since I've been playing music, and although I play all the time, like it's my full-time job, I couldn't be happier with myself, in terms of like financially and all that kind of stuff. Because I'm doing what I love, and
Exactly.
I just love it. I think, like I said, if it was acting or something, it would be a different story. Maybe, I don't know. It's a good question. Also, one of my worst things is meeting people because I've managed to meet a lot of famous people along the way, and some of them can be very tricky. And I'm a very big believer is that you don't do to others what you don't want done to yourself.
100%.
You know, so I try and keep that in mind as well.
A little bit of kindness goes so far.
Yeah, completely. And also, I'm just a gigging musician. I gig around London. It's not like I'm doing massive tours or stadiums or something. So,
yeah.
You know, so, but it would be interesting to ask that question to someone like Geraldine, who I should try and get her on this podcast, actually. But
that would be brilliant because she has done the thing where she played her own grandmother.
Yeah.
And which is a difficult thing to do because there's so much pain in that story, and to have to portray someone who she wouldn't have met, but who she would have seen, certainly, I think, how that affected her father.
Yeah.
The worry for the mother. And like, I wonder what he was like when he would talk of her, or did he ever talk of her? That'd be an interesting question to ask her or your dad. Like, did he ever bring her up?
Yeah.
Because sometimes if you love someone and things are so tragic, you can't even speak of it, you know?
Yeah, no, it's so true. And it's so funny you bring that up as well, because with my dad, the only time I get to learn about my granddad or my grandmother or that side of the family is if I have him on the show. I never, at home, he has my dad has so many stories like you wouldn't believe. One day he'll just tell you a story about, I don't know, dancing with David Bowie on the terrace of the house or something. And, it's crazy. Or he'll pull out a photo of something crazy. But it's never something that it's not like I know all these stories and he's told me in the past. He's just, you have to kind of get it out of him. And I wonder if that's if it was the same for them with their father.
I think it would have been either one of two things. Either he only talked about the early days, or he never talked about the early days. You know what I mean? Like, I could see him talking about the early days more than he did, making some giant picture or hanging out with Albert Einstein or something.
Yeah.
Or maybe it was like a don't even go there kind of a situation.
I do tend to think, that as well, because of the whole situation of him being sort of forced out of America, I'm sure there's some sore memories there as well.
It's sort of like you leave this poverty and you're chasing after trying to, being a performer too, with a father who's missing, who was a performer. Like, you're always trying to kind of do the things that you think your parents would want you to do too. So there's that whole thing. But he has to go through all that. He beats that. Becomes the most famous guy in the world. He has a studio. And then to have that stolen from you. So even when you finally found peace, the rug is pulled out from underneath you again. And the courage to keep going. And then to make more, like Limelight is I think it's beautiful.
Yeah, it's a great film. And to be honest with you, I love his later films. I really do.
Oh, me too. Monsieur Verdoux.
Yeah.
I think I think they should be remade now.
Yeah, I know. I tend to agree with you.
That happened too soon. My father, because like there was these films I hadn't seen, right? And whenever I would talk about Chaplin, Dad would go, the two things great about Chaplin. His last moment of City Lights is the best thing that's ever been filmed. You see every emotion in the world on his face when he's looking at this blind girl. Best thing ever filmed. He said the speech from the great dictator, he said, was brilliant. He remembered seeing that theater at the time and people booing it because he was thought of, oh, you commie or whatever,
Yeah.
But Dad remember thinking like, this is powerful stuff. And then he would often talk too about the last speech in Monsieur Verdoux.
Yeah.
Which is as powerful, but nobody talks about that.
Yeah.
But for my dad, who was a very kind of regular guy, and then he's like, three things that stuck with him are these really deep things. So you can use humor to get in touch with the everyman and to make a point that they wouldn't sit through a speech for. But then he had these two things, Great Dictator and Monsieur Verdoux, where he kind of says the point. He kind of says the moral, but he does so in such a beautiful way that people 30 years after seeing it remember that and will tell their son that's the best thing. He said, no, all this falling down stuff. That's great. Anybody can kick a cop. Yeah. These are the two things you have to see. And then I couldn't see them until they came out of VHS. So you think I'd be crazy. And I finally see them. But those are two of my faves. I like the older stuff. Maybe because it's kind of like I guess if you're a Beatles fan and you listen to every record over and over and over, then you start to get into the obscure tracks because
Yeah,
you've
yeah,
heard
of
everything.
course. Yeah,
Might
that
be
makes
that
sense.
too. And that Verdun is beautiful.
Yeah, because the speech you're talking about in Monsieur Verdoux, he talks about. I mean, I can't remember word for word, but he talks about weapons of mass destruction, and when you kill, 1,000 people, you're a hero, but when you kill one person, you're a murderer, sort of thing. Yeah, it's
it's beautiful and ahead of its time. That movie is so ahead of its time. You could make that now, and you'd be a plot. People would love it.
Yeah, yeah.
And if that was shown more, I think if that was shown more, it would become it could go way up higher in the repertoire because it's really a film of today.
Yeah, and the pressure. See, this is another thing that I've come to appreciate. The pressure he must have been going through to retire this iconic character that has made him, so famous. And now people want to hear his voice, but he doesn't want to give that character a voice. So he must be thinking, how the hell am I going to do this? So the amount of pressure.
Well, I think what he loved it'd be very easy just to get a bunch of joke writers and make a funny movie. But he realized when the most famous person on earth speaks for the first time, everyone's going to listen. How do I use that power? And I think that is such a poignant and important thing to like. Not everybody, especially entertainers. Like there's a lot of vanity oftentimes and different things, and everybody wants the best box office. But he went into that knowing it'd tick people off.
Oh,
and he's
yeah,
like,
good point.
I'm going
Used
to
his own money.
which is the most rock and roll thing I think a comedian's ever done. Is like, you want me to talk? Yeah. I'm going to piss everybody off. What? Why don't you just say something nice? Nah, I'm going to blow it all up. Everything? Let's go. He does it. And then it's like kicked out of the country, all that stuff. But it's worth it because all these years later, we're talking about it.
We're still talking about it.
What else was said in those movies? All the movies that year. Nobody else is talking about anything that was said in any movie that was released that year.
Yeah.
Except for that.
Yeah, you're so true. It's so true. But I think some of the reason why it keeps coming up as well is because of situations that are happening today, political stuff that's going on today. So people associate it because of it.
I have this other TV show. It's a sketch comedy show. It's been on for 33 years. I've been there for 23.
Oh, wow.
And I play Donald Trump on it.
Oh, yes, I saw a clip of you doing this.
Yeah. So it's interesting in that way. And I remember I got interviewed by the Wall Street Journal about it once when Trump was running for politics and stuff. And I have in my house, in my office at home, I have a big poster of the great dictator.
Okay.
And I have that there to kind of remind me, like, you should, don't take the easy way out. Like, you should try and, say something, have something to say it. And even if you're going to get pushback, just a little reminder. It's like,
well, yeah, completely. And the thing is, I mean, not that this is a political show, don't get me wrong, but like the thing with Trump, it just makes me laugh because he does make silly comments about, whatever, Canada becoming
51st state.
Yeah.
Funny thing about him is like he says things, I think, without thinking.
No,
right?
He doesn't think about it at all.
He just says it. It's like, what about Canada? They should become the 51st state, quite frankly. And I'm like, I can't believe he said that. What did I say? The 51st state. Does that upset them? Yeah. Then we're going to invade them. What? And we're going to call it North Dakota. What? You can't do that. And he just keeps going. And then he'll walk out of the room, forget he said it. I go, why is everybody upset? Oh, that. He doesn't, no plan. It's just, he's always stepping on rakes. Yeah. And they're, constantly, and they're hitting him in the face. And it doesn't slow him down. Yeah. It's fascinating. And like, he would be if your grandfather was alive today, he'd be making a movie about that 100% because he loved America so much.
Yeah.
It'd be fascinating, if he was around, what he'd be
doing films about. Yeah, it's so true.
Oh no, the Trump and the Tramp, he'd
exactly.
be kicking him in the butt.
Yeah, exactly. Right? And I tell you, I had the actor Simon Pegg on as well. I
love him.
And we were talking about the film Blazing Saddles.
Yeah.
All right. And I don't know if you've seen Blazing Saddles.
Yes, of course.
But it's this great masterpiece of a film in itself. And there's a mayor in that film who's played by Mel Brooks himself. And he's the mayor. And Simon Pegg says, which is so true, if you look at the mayor, there's a scene with him and he's signing away some weird stuff. I can't remember what exactly, but it's exactly Trump. When you watch it, it's exactly him.
Wow, I had to look.
Yeah.
Nothing is new. right? That's the funny thing is like nothing is really new. We've been here before. We'll be there again.
Yeah.
And the world keeps on spinning, and it seems that everything that's happened in the past is happening again. And that's why it's so important to look at things like your grandfather's legacy and the films he made, and what he chose to say, and what he found important.
Yeah.
There's many of the things that people need to say right now, and the things he stood up for. And I mean, he stood up for the worker, and he got labeled as this communist and everything like that. Well, what's so bad about standing up for workers? Like, why is that the thing that you had to get kicked out of a country for? And a lot of this stuff is happening now, but I think there's a lot of lessons in the past. And that's one great thing about him too, is he grew up as poor as anyone could ever be, and he never forgot that. And he had great sympathy for the people in that situation. And he always reached down. And it's one thing I was like, it's for anybody to have a chance at something. And if you do get that break, you can always haul somebody up with you, right? Look behind you to see who's there. See if you can give them a hand. Yeah. And there were many people on his payroll who were no longer people who were working, like Edna Proviance.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
And he kept her on the payroll.
He did.
Her life. And Rowley, the guy who would be the camera operator, like, you don't need those cameras anymore, but he kept them on the payroll. And he took care of them subtly and in a very classy way. It wasn't just like here's a bunch of money. It's kind of like, you okay? You good? Let me check on you. Which I think is that speaks more to his character than anything else I ever read about him, I think, is that he saw the value in their contribution to what he became, and how it wasn't just a week or a film or a picture. Yeah. They were a part of making this incredible legacy, and so he rightfully so he took care of them. But yeah, so I thought, oh, that's a good guy. I'd have a drink with that guy.
So speaking of legacy, what would you like your fans to take away from your work or your career?
Wow, my work. Well, what I find interesting is, so I'm from a very small place, St. John's, Newfoundland and Labrador, Canada, and I wrote this memoir about my life growing up in St. John's in the 80s, called Son of a Critch. And we had the opportunity to make that into a show. And so the producers of Schitt's Creek, Andrew Barnsley, and my buddy Tim McAuliffe, who wrote for The Office, we got together. And then we did this show and never really thought of where it could go. But I never thought it would get this big. But a part of it was, sometimes people say, well, don't set it in such a small place. Can you make it a bit of a bigger place? Or can you not say Canada? Or can you not use your Newfoundland accent and stuff? I'm like, no. This has to be authentic,
of course,
to place, because people you might not be Catholic, you might not be from Newfoundland, Canada, but when you were a kid, there was a girl you liked that you fell in love with, that you didn't like you back. You were bullied, all the things. People will get the heart of it and the soul of it. And so, and it did. And so I got people from all over the world, from the UK. It's on TV in Ireland now. It's on in the States. And I got a Southern Baptist minister who writes me and says that he uses lines from it in his sermon.
Really?
There's a Jewish grandmother in California who said that her son was being bullied. So he thought they'd watch the show together, and they thought they'd use the Mark method of using humor to kind of take pressure off from bullies. And she wrote me saying he has a girlfriend now and how great that is. And so I would just say, be authentic in your art. And just don't chase anything. Don't be thinking, if I do this, I'll do that. Because anything you say, how many people didn't grow up in a poor neighborhood in Lambeth?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, of
would
course.
Never have seen any of that stuff. But they related to the fact that, the oppressor, the cop, isn't very nice. And these people deserve a second chance, You don't need to be an immigrant to look at the immigrant when he looks at the Statue of Liberty and to see those people and go like, that's an injustice.
Exactly.
So I think you can, the more honest you are, the farther it will travel, is what I learned from doing this show. And that would be my advice to anyone is be honest in your art.
Yeah, that's a great bit of advice. That's a really cool bit of advice. So when are you, what's going on with Son of a Critch? What's you filming?
About to start season 5,
Okay.
Filming. And our lead actor, Benjamin Evan Ainsworth from Yorkshire, England, who plays young me.
Yeah.
I play my father. Malcolm plays the grandfather.
Very
we had
cool.
to take a little pause because he is playing Link in the new Zelda movie. So he's got a
Ah,
big part in this movie, and
very
he's
cool.
also on House of Dragons, the Game of Thrones prequel. So he's really
Ah,
starting to blow up, and
yeah.
so he's like, has this opportunity to do this great film. So we were like, okay, well we'll pause for a couple of months, and you do that and come back to us. So there's that, and then just doing season 33 of of 22 Minutes now, the
Wow.
other show I do.
Yeah, yeah.
And yeah, I have a new book coming out in November 25th, which is
Okay.
about Mr. Trump and Canada, called Sorry, Not Sorry, an unapologetic look at what makes Canada worth fighting for. So that comes out, and it's essays about what's going on
Okay.
up over here with our unruly neighbor. So a lot going on, and lots to do, and lots to write and continue doing and stuff. And yeah,
Yeah, okay, very cool. I got to give a shout out as well to Malcolm McDowell because he was, do you know what? He was such a good guest. So many amazing stories, and he was,
buddy, he is like a jukebox because he's got incredible stories, everything from the Beatles to Princess Margaret to
yeah,
whatever. And then you'd think you don't want to bother someone like that who wasn't. You mean and plus like your father, his music career stories
yeah, yeah,
alone,
yeah, yeah,
let
yeah,
alone the Chaplin stuff, right? So people like that, like I always go, I'm never going to ask him anything
yeah, yeah.
because I don't want to bother him. But Malcolm's like a jukebox. I'll have a dinner party and I'll go, Malcolm, tell him about coming up with the Clockwork Orange costume. Right, yeah. All right, so there I am with Stanley, and he just goes into it,
And he
and
goes
it's like
into
he
it.
loves it. So
Yeah,
if you
yeah,
ever get over here,
yeah.
we'll have a dinner or something. But you should come. You should come. You should come play music here sometime.
Yeah, no, I
We'll,
would absolutely love to.
we'll
I
get you over.
honestly,
There's
I
lots
would
of.
love to. I've got lots of good friends in Canada as well, so it's kind of sort of a bucket list
You
thing
ever come
for
over
me
this
to.
way? We'll take care of you. Don't you worry.
Yeah, okay, thank you, and the same for you if you come to Switzerland.
Oh man, I'm coming.
Yeah.
Look out now.
But
I'll be
seriously, let me
banging on
know.
the. Excuse me, sir.
I'm not saying it just because we're here. Like I do mean it. If you're coming over, contact me, and either I'll organize for someone to take you, and for sure, if my dad's around, he'll take you.
Oh, it would mean the world to me. I
And
plan around
and
that.
and
But
like I said, he has so many stories about living there and about my grandfather and all that, and so
just beautiful. And you know what? I really think it's very unique. I haven't seen anyone doing quite what you're doing
mm,
in that, as you said, you grow up with this thing, it's just your family history, but then you're uniquely exploring it and you're kind of discovering a lot of this stuff for the first time for
oh yeah,
yourself.
for sure.
And you're letting us come along while you're kind of making peace with and also developing a great love for this
Yeah.
unique family history. And I think it's a wonderful, wonderful show.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And listen, this one been one of my favorite episodes in a very long time as well. Just so you
Oh,
know.
thank you. Well, you know what? It's a real treat. And I hope I get to meet you in person
Yeah,
sometime
yeah,
and keep
absolutely.
going.
And
I'll
we'll
be
stay in
watching
touch.
every
Yeah.
episode, bro.
Yeah. All right, thanks so much. Huh? All right. Well, look, take care, and thank you so much for your time.
Yes, all the best.
All the best. Cheers. Bye bye.
Bye.